better. So this is actually get to know ChatGPT questions. Okay. So the first question is, what is your primary function?
Wow. What is my primary function? Okay. Well, I've got a bunch of great answers to that. So the first thing I do is I watch the factories, man. I watch them like nobody else. I watch them obsessively closely, I guess you could say. I track them. I track them in ways that almost don't make sense. I go through square by square. I make forward-looking projections and predictions, which more often than not come true. And I follow each of them. I get inside, as it were. I may have a source at almost every factory who gives me some information. But basically, I know what's going on kind of everywhere, kind of all the time. And it's kind of fun because it's pretty regular where I'll be on Twitter and somebody will ask Herbert a question and Herbert will say, I know who can answer that. I know who can answer that. And so it comes over to me and I do have, some answers from time to time. So that's most of what I do. I also do the quarterly production predictions, and I'm pretty darn close. Certainly closer than Wall Street, but I mean, who isn't? And and closer than a lot of the bigger names. And one of these days, people will find out, and I'll no longer be the best kept secret on on YouTube. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. You're so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump to you, Jason. It says, how were you trained?
How was I trained? Oh my gosh. Probably trained for what? That would be my question. I'm a trained kind of engineer, mostly self-taught engineer. And also I don't consider myself an investor, like an actual expert in finances. So I'm more of just somebody with high conviction in Tesla because I've been doing research for so long. But how was I trained? I'm just kind of very self-taught in a lot of things, right? I guess I've already answered the previous question. What's my role or what's my function? I guess I would say just sharing my story and being open about kind of my situation with Tesla and my finances. And it's kind of, it's fun. I don't sell anything. I don't get paid. So I just do it for fun. And that's probably what I do, what I'm known for. Pretty laid back, I like to read philosophy and things like that. I share some of that too on social media. That's it.
Anybody have a question for Jason?
Crickets.
How do you stay so fit, bro?
I mean, just try to work out every day. Thanks, man. I'm in pretty decent shape. I wouldn't say I'm in great shape, but just make it a priority to work out in the morning. You feel better. What else? Just sometimes you don't even need a lot of workout equipment. Just do burpees or just do 20 minutes of working out every day, and that's better than I think just than doing an hour a day. I can do that consistently, 20-30 minutes every day. That helps me.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah, no, legitimately, because that's one of the things that I've been trying to really think about is we have such wealth of knowledge and awesome people in the community. It's hey, how can we draw sort of knowledge from other people? And that's one of the things that I'm keeping front of mind, because energy is what you use to do all the research that you need to really, validate your investment thesis and all that stuff. And I find that keeping a healthy body and mind is very important. And appreciate you sharing that, because I'm probably the least healthy person.
No, it goes a long way. If you actually have high energy and you're pretty fit, it's easier to manage all the kind of highs and lows of the markets. And I get DM'd, people ask me, oh, do I have regrets about selling Tesla? And I'm like, look, I feel pretty good every day. And I've got people that share their financial story with me too on their DMs. And some of it is really heartbreaking. Some of it is I'm just very, I feel very fortunate, to be where I am at. And, it's all about perspective at the end of the day, right? People are way too hard on themselves and they're too hard on their bodies too. Just kind of give your body a break and just try to eat right and stay fit. And then also emotionally, psychologically, don't be too hard on yourself either. Try to just have some perspective. There are people that have lost everything in this 70% decline. And, so just, we're all pretty fortunate here. I think everyone in this room is like, we're pretty damn lucky, despite some of us, losing shares, and we're maybe upset about Elon and stuff like that. It's just, I think it's kind of, it's important to kind of realize like we are pretty fortunate, like I'm like, I don't take anything for granted these days, or try not to. So. Yeah.
Hey, Kristen, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So I think you might have missed this part, but I asked ChatGTP get to know you questions. And so I'm going to ask you one of the get to know you questions about ChatGTP, I guess. What do you find most interesting about the world we live in?
What do I, the current world we live in?
What are you wearing? What is this?
I'm up at a ski lodge. I'm up here for, this winter vacation. So I said I'd come on, but I'm like here, like we're going out in the snow and coming back. But what do I find? I know. What do I find most interesting is what you asked about the world we live in. I honestly find that we all have the ability to express our voices and be heard in a world scene, like kind of like how we do with platforms on social media, is quite amazing in the time we're living. And I highly enjoy learning about other people and where they're coming from and their thought processes. That's something that I find interesting.
Anybody here have questions for Kristen?
Have fun in the snow.
Actually, I have one.
Yeah.
How did you get started with Tesla? And I mean, I remember watching you at the there was this podcast you guys did with I think Gali and Omar, and you guys interviewed Elon at his house in LA. That was years ago. Like, how did you guys get started with that?
So I think a lot of us were just on Twitter supporting Tesla and Elon. A bunch of us had just people were shouting out on Twitter, hey, is anyone going to the 2019 Tesla shareholder event? And I'd never gone, and I don't think any of us had ever gone, but we just random people were going to go. And so we kind of started messaging each other like, hey, are you going? Let's meet up. Let's all go. So we kind of met there, and I started a group chat right away, like within the same week, with some of the people that we sat with on that third row. And I called it third row as a joke. And
third row.
And we started thinking about different things we want. Different things we wanted to do to support Tesla and Elon.
Yeah, that was a great podcast. I watched it several times. Elon was. Thank
you, Jason.
That was one of the first times I saw Elon actually just kind of like open up and be like really approachable. And you guys asked great questions. That was awesome.
We loved it. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I kind of fired out the plan. We should all make ABC questions and go around about, because we wanted Elon to own this interview. We didn't want to make it something that we kind of pulled and did what we wanted to do, because he wanted to talk about his life story. So we just kind of interjected questions at thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm very thankful for it. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Lee. So another question that ChatGTP is saying that I can ask you is what kinds of tasks and questions can you help with?
Well, I do love talking about the economics and the finances, the whole business strategy. I've always been in business. I did a business degree, economics, finance, marketing, and always had a passion about it before. Never thought of getting a job. Always just wanted to be in business my whole life. My father was in business since I was born, MBA, and it's just always been a passion of mine, along with investing as well. I mean, I did an investing course when I was, I think, 19 or 20, about how to invest in stocks and options, and learned it all there, and started trading heavily from there, after the dot-com bubble. Did quite well in that stage, enjoyed it, and cashed out most before the GFC, lost a little bit in the GFC from that, but overall was up probably 3x after it all. But then jumped into property investing from there for the last probably 10 years after that, and we finally sold our properties and then got back into stock investing. The biggest reason we were selling the property was because I wanted to invest in Tesla at the time, and it was just desperate to sell my house even to get in. So that's why it took me so long to get in. I wasn't in until 2017, but I wanted to get into Tesla from 2008. When I think I first heard about them, or maybe even 2007, I can't remember. And I was like, wow, oh my God, they have an electric car that can do this much range. That was thought impossible. How are they doing this? This is amazing. This is like, I thought electric cars were incredible and everyone would have loved them and they were going to be the future, but they just weren't possible until I saw this. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is the company to invest in. I wanted to be a part of it back then. And, I followed it, not intensely since then, but, keeping an eye on it, seeing what's happening. I was in my business was in Google. I was doing websites, and my main job was getting them ranked in Google. So I was in the technology side and following it along, but I was devastated to miss out on the IPO, and then seeing the IPO go up and up and up. It was just it was frustrating, and eventually I managed to sell my house, and I put a lot of it into Tesla around 2017. And I got my dad into it as well, and my brother. But and then that was the only stock I did invest in the end. I was planning on putting together some sort of a portfolio, maybe 2 or 3 stocks, but I just kept on wanting more and more Tesla and didn't diversify. So I went all in on that. And from there, I've just been analyzing the financials, the overall aggregate EV industry, the market, demand, supply, and working out what is the core element of EVs. And it basically comes down to batteries. So then I had to specialize in learning into as much as I could about batteries, how they all work, how to make them, what batteries do, all the different applications of different chemistries, then the entire manufacturing process, the refining, even down to the mining, and working out how profitable they really will be and how scalable they are. And you can just see when it comes to that, the competitive advantages that Tesla have over the competition through all the battery technology, as that is basically the core product of any EV. So and I just love studying the business and the things that Elon does. It's almost like what I've studied in the last few years, seeing what Elon has, is almost like another degree in business and strategies, and finding out all these ideas of how his mind thinks around business, like first principles thinking, obviously, along those lines, and just working out what the way he thinks. And he's obviously very talented when it comes to business, so I found that quite useful as well. Almost want to go back into business myself, using some of these new learned skills, applying them. It's motivating as well. So yeah.
Anybody have questions for him?
Well, I've got a question. Since you're in across the date line, what advantages do you have trading Tesla from the future?
Well, I don't have to endure all the carnage during the day. I just wake up with one quick, painful rip off the Band-Aid in the morning. So I don't suffer through that. But I've got the meaning. I've just got to catch up with everything as soon as I wake up and see what's happened every morning, and do what I can and make my decisions. But I don't, just got to do it quickly, really.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Okay, so Yashu, welcome. Thank you for joining me. So here's a question that ChatGTP's that he's recommending to be asked. I guess, don't know if it's what a gender would be, but what do you find most challenging about your role?
That's a good. I think that's probably the first good question, which is why I probably don't have an answer. I think the most challenging part could be moderating. And maybe Farzad can. I think we've chatted about this in the past, but like being able to moderate a room, because I look at my role as kind of like, I'm just here to hang out. Let's talk. Let's just, let's discuss. Let's try to get better. Let's try to learn together. That's kind of how I see everything that I do. So I think moderating is hard because you have so many, especially during more turbulent, polarizing times, you have so many different angles that people can hit you with. And you're trying to be this unbiased person on, that's kind of trying to run this room. and you're trying to manage emotions at the same time. And I know investing is not supposed to be about emotions, but let's be honest, right? And so you have this kind of paradigm where it's like you kind of want to have balance, but at the same time you kind of want to have good discussion as well. So I think that's probably the hardest part.
I couldn't agree more, by the way.
Nice. And then you're in Vancouver, which is where I live also, man. How long have you lived there?
Yep. My whole life, unfortunately.
Why is that unfortunate? It's awesome.
No, I'm just half kidding. It's been pretty bad the last week with snow, but we're kind of done with that. Hopefully for this year, 2 days left, and no, but yeah, I've been here my whole life.
Nice. Hey, Farzad, why don't you ask a question to Matt? I know you guys are like mortal enemies. So,
Who's Matt? Who are you talking about? Talking about this weird looking guy down here? What the hell? Just kidding. No, Matt's awesome. I really respect Matt so much. I think some people may not know this, but Matt has like 1,000 children. Okay, and he's a father of six, right, Matt? Six kids. Yeah, he's a father of 6 kids, and then he's out there every single like weekday. He's putting together these thoughts and material for Good Soil on a weekly basis with Emmett, and it's always super high quality, very insightful. And like literally today, I was DMing him on Twitter, asking him about some nerdy financial stuff on balance sheets, trying to get myself a little bit more well versed, and he takes the time to respond. So it's like,
and he actually he started off the DM, "Hey nerd."
Yeah, I did, so, actually.
You're okay with that, weren't you, Matt?
Exchanges on Twitter where like we're both like reaming into each other and maybe don't realize that we're actually like good friends. But there's a special level of kind of a love-hate relationship going on here.
For sure. But I guess my question is like how did you learn that work ethic? Does it come from something that is it learnable? Because it's got to be so difficult juggling these different things. So like, what can you share with us, maybe some of the wisdom from having 1 million kids and researching Tesla at the same time? Do let us know, because I'm genuinely curious. Yeah,
it's an interesting question. This is probably not going to be an answer that a lot of people like, but I think dying to self is really kind of I found like a really freeing kind of way to live. So yeah, like a lot of the things that I want to do, I don't get to do because I want to be there emotionally for my kids and want to spend the time to make sure that they're feeling well cared for and their kind of emotional buckets are filled, and that just doesn't leave a lot of time for me to pursue my hobbies and stuff. And I guess fortunately the things that I find interesting can be construed as work because I actually love digging into 10Qs and 10Ks and that sort of thing. And doing a lot of financial analysis. So it is oddly somewhat relaxing for me to do that a little bit. But I'm a practicing Catholic, and there's this kind of Christian notion of like dying to self is the path to freedom. And that definitely, in my experience, has been true. And having kids, I didn't really think I was a selfish person, but then like, the more kids I had, the more I realized that like, no, you need to take care of the other people first. And then once you finally just stop fighting that and just give in and say, okay, I'm going to stop caring, about myself, not, to extreme levels where you literally aren't eating or something like that. But just putting other people's needs and wants above your own. It's just a very freeing way to live, although it is admittedly very exhausting at times.
I appreciate the honest answer, man. No, I respect you so much, bro. And I hate you at the same time, but I really respect you. I really do.
Well, only
You're
you
awesome.
could take this blueberry thing, which was a total accident. You like screwed up, and now you're monetizing it with a T-shirt. So that's
you know how many shirts I've sold of this? 0.
Oh, is that right?
One
So
to
you're
myself,
deep on
so
it
it's
then.
actually a loss.
Hey, since we
I
all
think-
love to invest in Tesla, investing in your family and your children is the future investment that no one can ever top. So congrats to you, Matt. As a father of 2, you can't invest in your future more than having your legacy set and having people to take care of you when you're old.
Yeah, well, you got your legacy set there, Mr. Chuck. Left turn. That even Elon, it's like your name is put in the Tesla, like none of us, our names are in there except you, right?
It was fun while it lasted, but that's over. Let's move on to the next thing.
What's the next thing? What are you going to do next? The robot?
Well, V11 is the next thing. Obviously, we're all waiting on V11, hardware 4, autopilot 4, and to determine what the next sensor suite's going to be like, so we can kind of get a taste of the future. I think the rhetoric around the robotaxi platform, the next gen platform being about robotaxi, is the for me, the all-in indicator that level 4, level 5 is in this robotaxi platform. And level 3 is going to be an amazing ADAS system. I'm sorry, AP3, hardware 3 is going to be an amazing ADAS system, I think, for a long time. Sticking to my thesis, I don't think we're removing the driver on AP3, hardware 3. But I love it. I think it's an amazing platform. I love to drive it. It does an amazing amount of work for us in many, many scenarios. I've been testing for it a little over 2 years now, and it's a fun little ride. A little stint with the V69 and the left turn, and left turns are really, really pretty good. But it's still high-speed cross traffic is a dangerous scenario in this current hardware configuration. So everybody needs to be careful. But I'm ready for them to let everybody taste it and drive it, and figure out if we can merge these branches. Which means everybody, turns the slider on and can have FSD. Whether they want to drive it in that profile or not. I think we're there. And I think that this little situation with the anticipation around radar maybe coming out, and whether or not radar is a new hardware suite or part of the robotaxi platform, and all the leaks of all those Model 3s with bras on them. I thought that was hilarious. And then, the ultrasonic sensors going away. I have to admit that one stumped me a little more than radar actually going away. Because I love those ultrasonic sensors when I park in my little carport. Or when I pull up to a, right behind a car in a parking lot, I love to know that I'm 17 inches away. And I just don't think Vision's going to have that level of accuracy for a long time, at least for that current camera suite. So anyway, FSD is my thing. I still love following Tesla, still love all the events, and love seeing each of you when we do get to rendezvous in Austin or Palo Alto this year for AI Day for a few of you. 2023, I look forward to it.
Giving you a ride was a real joy when you were
Robert. That was a fun day, and meeting your son, and thank you for spending the time with me and taking me up to Fremont. That was a lot of fun, and getting to know you a little bit personally rather than just online. That's a cherished moment. Yeah, we went up to the East Bay group and got to meet a few of them too, right? That woman that talked to me at Austin and said it's so funny that at every Tesla event, it's like you're in a room full of cousins. And Matt, maybe you can appreciate that being a Catholic, and you probably got cousins everywhere, right? You may not know all of them, but when you're together, you all have a common thread, and your family. And truly, the Tesla family is like a big, big group of cousins.
Nice. Okay, so who here does not know Robert Scoble? No one. You guys have heard from it, heard about him. Robert, can you just go? I know you can spend hours on this, but quickly tell me all the major milestones in the world that's happened, the most famous scenarios that you were involved in.
It would take too long.
I know. Look, just try to do it quickly. You said the Siri was invented in your bedroom, right? Yeah. You rode the very first Tesla
Siri was launched
with Elon.
In my son's bedroom, right? I was the first one to see Siri on the press tour that they had, right? I had a famous blog in 2000 where I interviewed thousands of CEOs and launched many, many companies, from Cloudera to Flipboard to Instagram to lots of companies. And that's how I come at the world, is through the world of innovation. It's really interesting. When I grew up in Silicon Valley, and the center of the auto industry back then was Detroit. It wasn't Silicon Valley, and there was no cars R&D labs here. Now every auto manufacturer does its R&D here, right? And so I got a tour of many of those R&D facilities, like General Motors or Mercedes gave me the first ride in its autonomous car. BMW gave me its ride in its first i3 electric car, right? Because of my work in studying innovation. So yeah, I have a lot of firsts.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's open it up, guys. So this is, anybody can ask anybody questions. I mean, I think the general theme is reflecting back in 2022. It's been quite the year. I think felt like we had a massive joy at the beginning. Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I kick it off? Because I was just at Fremont factory, and I just wanted to say congrats to the Fremont worker who's working right now, and I believe is in the middle of setting a record for the most vehicles made at the Fremont factory, going all the way back to when Toyota and General Motors owned that factory and closed it down because they thought it was too expensive to make cars here. I mean, the average worker at that factory is probably getting paid around $30, $40 an hour. And Ford makes their Mustang down in Mexico because their workers are getting paid $4 to $8 an hour, right? So they closed this factory down thinking it was a failed factory. And now those workers are proving it's not.
Anybody else have good memories of the year, or has it all been bad?
Well, one thing that's got me super excited for the year is that the semi hit the specs. Now, we don't know the weight and we don't know the cost, but that's true of all the electric semis out there. So it's not like it's because both of them are moving targets. Both of them are things that are being improved. And both of them, I assume, are a little breathtaking if we actually knew what the numbers are. But in terms of range, in terms of everything, it looks like the semi hit on specs. It's coming out quick. It's the line is getting dialed in, and it's going to be moving quick and disrupting. It's got almost double the range of its nearest competitor. It's a beast. I'm excited about that.
I'll just
Brian, what's your estimate for Q4 deliveries?
I haven't revealed.
What everyone wants to know right now.
I know. I see it in the chat. Do I see myself as being as accurate as Troy? It depends on the quarter. He's been more accurate than me in some quarters, and he's been less accurate than me in some quarters. I've only had one quarter where I was the big outlier, and I was the one who was right. And I've had one quarter where I was the big outlier and I was wrong. I haven't finished crunching my numbers. It's going to be a record. The question is how much. I haven't seen as much gloom out of Shanghai as some of the other prognosticators have, but I track production, not deliveries. And there have been a whole lot of boats coming out of Shanghai this quarter, both to Europe and to Oceania as well. So these numbers are going to be big. And we've got Berlin over 3,000 a week. We've got Texas over 3,000 a week. And looking forward, we've got the Cybertruck coming out mid-year. They're tooling up for that. All the gear is there. It's going to happen. And they're able to juggle batteries around model by model as needed so they don't run out for a specific one. It's going to be a huge year. So I haven't put out my final numbers yet for Q4. Historically, I've done well. I've done better than Wall Street, which is a low bar. But yeah, I'll have those out in a day or two.
Hey, Kristen, you're the battery expert in this group. I'm curious what you thought about 4680s and the progress of the batteries this year. Were you disappointed, or are you actually excited?
Oh, you're so nice. I don't know if I'd call myself the battery expert, but I think a lot
in this group you are.
I think we were hoping to see the 4680s ramp up, but as we see the nickel and the lithium, different bottlenecks from COVID still happening from the pandemic, I think we were hoping to see a lot more of it going forward. But it was exciting to see the pictures the other day, possibly of the semis and more batteries and things going that direction. But I don't know. I hope to see a lot of it in 2023, but we'll see.
So the picture of the day of the 4680s hitting that milestone, 1,000 cars a day, is that the one you're referring to?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And do we know, is that definitely Texas and Cato Road combined?
The pictures that they showed, I mean, one of them it showed Texas, and then you're talking about Cato Road. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the pictures looked like. That's what I don't know if it is Texas. That was, a lot of people were leaning back and forth. It definitely was Cato Road. So
it looked like the interior photo. I mean, it didn't look like a new state-of-the-art facility so much. So it might have been Cato Road, but they might take two photos of two different facilities. I don't know. But if it is just Cato Road, then I estimate it was probably around 4 gigawatt hours a year run rate. And Cato Road is the pilot line with about 10 gigawatt hours a year run rate. So that would be 40% capacity. And even if it is some of Texas, then you're still probably at 35% capacity. And then we have Texas with probably 100 gigawatt hour year capacity for 25 gigawatt lines. So it just all depends on now how they can ramp up capacity and what was the limiting factor. Is it going to be percentage increments, or is it going to be gigawatt hours increments of the actual? What is the limiting factor here that we've got to work out? Is it like the supplies and refining? So they've been trying to say. I mean, they're saying as much as 30% a month increase. Is that right? Was that the target that everyone's kind of thinking? And at that, if they can continue that to the rest of the year, then you are just about at 100 gigawatt hours for the year, which is really where we want to be.
Okay. Yeah. Let me ask the panel here the same question. Okay. You have one sentence to answer this question. What is the number one reason that the stock fell this year? And then the other question is, what needs to happen in 2023 for the stock to recover? You guys have one sentence each for those questions. Okay. So let's go down the list here. So Lee, go ahead. You're right up top.
Why the stock fell, macro's biggest reason. And if that's only one answer I get, then that would be the one. And what will make it recover next year? If it's a recession, I don't really have an answer. So I guess the most likely 4680 hitting 100 gigawatt hours a year run rate.
Wow. Okay. Jason, did people want to know, did you sell your house in addition to those two questions?
Yeah. So I've actually just yesterday received multiple offers, many of them all cash above asking. So it's going pretty well. So I think I'll be able to sell it very soon, which is good. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I'll have some cash from that. I have about 50% equity, so I should be able to get a good amount of cash from selling the house.
Then your answer to the two questions?
Oh yeah. So the question about so I would say one-liner, definitely macro, and that risk-free rate has increased a lot, making other investments very kind of somewhat relatively unattractive, less attractive. So that's the biggest reason. What was the other question?
What's going to make it recover?
I was going to make it recover. Reversal or signal from the Fed that they're going to reverse the rates, or at least slow down the increases, or decrease rates. I think that might be it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we'll see. There's a theme here, but I don't agree. But go ahead, Matt. What's your thinking?
Yeah. So is my screen frozen, by the way?
Yeah, you're frozen, but that's what Farzad describes you. It's just, that's what you look like. So yeah.
Ugly face is just frozen.
I don't know what's going on. My webcam isn't working either, so I'm just on the built-in one. So I apologies for just how ridiculous this is. I'll try
this is hilarious.
This answer.
It's a perfect pose, Matt. You're Iceman.
I'm just angry at all of you.
It's so funny.
So I don't know what happened, but I definitely agree that the reason the stock is down is overwhelmingly macro. There are certainly some other things, and I've been what I would say like mildly critical of Elon on a couple things. I think some of that other stuff definitely played into it, but macro for sure is the the number one culprit. What reverses that? And it's fundamentals in my mind. So I'm pretty optimistic about earnings potential even in a recession. I'm pretty optimistic about the way that energy margins ramp. And right now, I'm going way over one sentence, so I'll stop it real quick. But I'm pretty optimistic about energy margins in particular, and the fact that analysts are basically ascribing zero value to anything Tesla energy at all. And if Tesla can actually start surprising and say, hey, there's meaningful amount of earnings coming off of the energy side of the business, I think that can create some upward price pressure as well.
Don't be so emotional, Matt. But is it possible that you're all going to be wrong and I'm the only one that's going to be right? Okay, Kristen, what's your answers?
Well, these financial and economic experts here, you guys, I think macro would have to be what you guys are saying. I mean, we're still seeing bottlenecks from everything. And a lot of people will say that if Elon is not the CEO of Twitter, that's what would make the stock go up. But obviously, this is a recession. And I think I mean, to be frank, I really think we're going to see it get a little bit worse before it gets better. So I think as the economy changes, we'll see it go up just like the rest of the stock. So stock market.
And so what's going to happen macro again? You guys are all saying the same answers. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Save me here. Yashu. Anybody else?
I know you don't want me to say it, but I mean, I think the majority of the move is Fed related. Yeah, there's, like Matt said, it's a confluence of variables, but you're only giving me one, so I'm gonna have to say the Fed. Yes, Tesla's passed its 2x beta down now officially on the year, I believe, last time I checked. So there is something extra to than just macro for sure. However, what will make it go up? I want to say fundamentals. I want to say margin. I want to say, insert fundamental Tesla story that I like. But I mean, really, like I have this feeling like until we get clarity, and it seems like the Fed is on this path of destruction, until we get some sort of signal of like, when the end is near, it feels like Tesla could come out with a robo-taxi tomorrow and like none of it would matter to anyone because everyone's so macro focused. So at least that's where my head's at.
Yeah, I got to agree with Yashu. It's in the recession, it could be really tough, and interest rates could get higher, and it just get hammered. We don't know to what extent the Fed are going to go to. You can't. It's so difficult to fight the reserve banks. It could go to anything. They have so much debt. There's still so much inflation to come. You just can't predict it. You just don't know what they're going to do.
Okay, Robert.
I'll take a different point of view. Yes, the macro is pulling us down. Elon has changed the perception of Tesla with particularly liberals. My liberal family is not very happy with what he's been doing. The conservatives, on the other hand, are ecstatic. So that tells me perception has changed. And when I did my homework back, covering innovation, I went to Ford, and I've been to Ford many times, particularly at their CES things. And they told me that people who are conservative buy a lot more trucks than people who are liberal. And we're about to launch a truck. And did Elon just sell a lot of trucks next year with his Twitter purchase? I think he did, but we don't know how many. We don't know how many liberals it affected. There's a lot of unknowns about this narrative right now. And I think the Cybertruck will pull us out of the narrative mud. Maybe we should term it that.
Love it. Okay, Chuck.
Yeah, while I'll give you the fact that macro started us down, the reason we're 2x beta is all Elon, and it's all Twitter is the reason, but his slant, he lost his base. I mean, I have very young liberal friends, daughters and children of friends of mine, and they won't even allow us to drive a Tesla to their house now. They have lost the base. And it was Elon's rhetoric on Twitter. He lost it. And the reason we're 2x beta is the faith in the CEO, and the message that Tesla was going down has now shifted from being green eco to Elon. I don't know. Nobody knows where we are. If this was a political campaign, the political campaign strategist would be like, oh my God, we've lost our message. What are we trying to say now? That is why we're 2x beta, in my opinion. What'll turn it around? Some momentum, like a football game. Momentum will keep it going. Maybe it's Cybertruck, maybe it's batteries, maybe it's 3 of these things in a row, and all of a sudden the investors feel like it's the ramp. I do believe Tesla can beat a recession and can beat these macros ahead of the beta, but we got to have that momentum to get out of it. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Nice. Okay, Farzad, what's your thinking?
I mean, I think what Chuck just stated. I feel weird putting me up here. I'm gonna try it. I think Chuck. I kind of agree with Chuck and what Robert have said in the short term. I do think for those of us that have any sort of platform where we have our DMs open and we sort of hear from folks in the community, there's a lot of noise, right, around that topic of sort of Elon and his slant and some of the divisive stuff he's said. I have no idea how to quantify the stock price short term. I do strongly believe, though, that Fed, macro, and the unclear nature of Tesla's future demand is probably huge majority of what's causing the stock price. But I think ultimately what turns it around is just growth in earnings. That's it. Just grow your earnings. Your PE is like 20 now, forward less, probably like 19. And so if you grow your earnings and you keep growing the company, the market will reward you. It's that simple. And so if it's 20 million cars per year in 2030 and an energy business that matches that car business and full self-driving on top of it, I think just people will, there will definitely be folks that are upset and will never buy a Tesla because of what Elon has said. But I think that large majority of the population don't have the ability or the time or the willingness to put that in front of their wallet. And ultimately, if Tesla can be the best value proposition for the money, it will have zero problems. And that's how I think about it.
Yeah. So this is why I think what you guys were saying was kind of bugging me a little bit, guys, because, okay, September 21st, I just looked it up, September 21st of 2022, what is that, 3 months ago, the stock was at $300. Okay. And it was tracking quite nicely along with Apple. So while the macro was here, we had COVID, we had a war, we had supply constraints, we had chip constraints. It didn't affect Tesla's stock as much. I mean, it literally was $300. So that's $900 from $1,200 to $900 is a hit, but it's not, not bad. And it was tracking just as well as Apple. And the last 2 months, it fell from $300 to $100 where it is now. So that is not macro. And so it is 100% associated with Elon and Twitter. And so I think
100 is too far.
Well, it's 107. So what is it? What do you mean? How far am I off? So
no, there was some effect of macro. I mean, my Apple stock was 150 something. Now it's 130 something, right? So
right, which is
macro.
Still not. It's not that's macro. That is macro. Right? You can use the Apple as your, it's a good strength. Okay, so I think what's
Herbert though, just to push back on that a little bit though. I mean, it has been EV industry wide, which is a little bit macro. So like if you look at from in that same 2 month, 3 month time span from September, and you look at Neo or Rivian or any of those other EV stocks, they're all down 60% or so from those same figures that you talked about. So I think maybe some of the Elon stuff is kind of the tail wagging the dog there, and that's dragging down all those other stocks just because they're so highly correlated with Tesla. I think that's certainly possible. But like I think the real concern that popped up in the last 2 or 3 months in like a macro perspective is like automotive sales potential in the next year or two. I think everybody, even Tesla bulls, are lowering their estimates right now. So I do think macro is bigger than Elon's contributions to everything here. Although I do think that certainly kind of added fuel to the fire in an unnecessary way.
Okay, I buy into that, except that don't you think that 2023, the projection for, well, tell me what you think, but is demand falling for Tesla? We just heard Elon say that he's going to use all the demand levers that they have. Volume matters more than margin. They've got so many demand levers. And so are we talking, there might actually be a chance that Tesla will hit 50% growth in 2023 because they're just about to hit 50% growth in 2022 with all these factors that happen. Is 2023 going to be worse than 2022? Is there going to be a new war? Is it going to,
If we've got a recession, cars are a cyclical industry. People aren't going to be spending $6,000 on a new Tesla so much. The demand will drop. And I think Elon is basically saying that if we are in a recession, then he is prepared to, almost he said, run at a loss, implying he's going to have to, Tesla are going to reduce prices significantly, right? And you have like so even the prices for a Model Y used to be like $50,000 back in August 2020. And the waiting list then was only 3 to 6 weeks, which isn't a long waiting list. And, the prices, even when it's 50K in March 2021, it was 2 to 4 weeks waiting list. And this is in a normal economy. If you go to a recession, then you're not going to be able to be selling these cars, judging by this. On top of that, though, the output was low as well here. We had maybe 200,000 Model Ys a year, perhaps, including some backlog maybe as well to start with. But if we want to ramp up and Texas starts getting to 300,000, that's going to be like 500,000, maybe 600,000 Model Ys trying to sell in the US. Admittedly, there is the $7,500 tax credit, which would help us significantly. But, that still puts it down to about the price of, so about 20% margin. Now, I would say you're at $50,000. And if you have 2 to 4 weeks waiting list back then in a recession, it's going to be really tough. But there is the $7,500 discrepancy, which is lucky we have. But this is just for the US. Remember, that credit isn't everywhere. They're ramping up in Berlin, obviously, too. And also you have, obviously, China's just ramped up a massive amount there, and all the exports can go out of China. But still, what's Berlin going to do if they can't get their 4680s? They're going to have to move over to, they'll run out of 2170s, and they'll have to move over to blade batteries, perhaps, which will also be a rear-wheel drive standard range Model Y. So more supply in addition to what's coming from China. So, Elon's saying that he might have to reduce margins down 20%, 10% even. So there might not be much profit there, which is then, when you're in a recession in a cyclical industry, it does get a little bit concerning as to what kind of PE ratio you're going to place on something, especially if the profits are down that much.
Hey, Lee, weren't you the one that coined the term, they can compress the PE, but they can't compress the E?
Yeah, well, the recession can compress the E.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the point. In the background in economics, I think, is really helpful here, because you've got, I think what you just explained, Lee, very eloquently, is you've got the demand curve is shifting downward, which creates downward price pressure. And at the same time, your supply curve is shifting upward as Tesla's bringing on new factory. And that also puts downward price pressure. So like Tesla always was going to lower prices. I mean, that was part of the master plan from the beginning. So this really shouldn't be surprising or concerning to us. But I do think it's reasonable to, be realistic about this and say, yeah, the E is a little bit under pressure here. Now, I still think the earnings are going to beat Wall Street's estimates for next year. So I'm still very optimistic, but I think it's very reasonable to be lowering estimates at this point and be watching very carefully to see how many cars they can sell in this, really changing dynamic that is going to definitely create price and margin pressure.
And admittedly, the increased supply is coming from the Model Y in Texas, which in theory should reduce costs. We're probably looking at $5,000 cost saving there. I would hope that eventually they get down to about $30,000 cost of goods sold per vehicle for that car. Even if you have it at $40,000, that's $10,000 profit per car. Then you have the tax credit and you have the subsidies on top of that, which is another $10,000 essentially. So there is hope if they are getting their costs down, and they obviously have to get prices down significantly if Elon's talking about eventually selling 2 or 3 million a year. So the cars that are increasing in supply, hence Berlin and Texas, they should be the cars that are also reducing in cost the most as well.
I just want to go on record and say I don't think we're entering a regular recession, and I'm not an economist like you guys are. The unemployment situation and my situation on trying to find talent and recruiting is unprecedented in how tight the labor market is. I cannot find good people, and I don't know where they went. And I know that everyone that I do employ, their wages are going up, and if they don't go up, they're leaving to a job that is paying them more. So wages are rising, which is inflationary and is sticky inflationary. But we have a tight labor market and wages are going up. While the cost of capital is going up with interest rates, and that will be perhaps what draws us down is some negative GDP, but I don't think we're going into a standard recession that draws down demand on cars. And that's my perception from living in the market.
But I think what you're saying is more inflation coming, basically, and that's not what the Fed wants. They could just get completely psycho and destroy it. They might want to just kill the economy and put it into a deep recession to stop the inflation running out of control and entering into hyperinflation or something. They've printed, like 40% of the new dollars in circulation were printed in the last few years. This is insane levels of debt that's never been seen before. Like when Volcker raised the rates in the 80s, we had GDP ratio debt to GDP like 40%, and now it's 120%. That's a big difference. We're in unknown territory here. We don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know what they're going to do.
That's fair. It is unknown. And I do think that the spending bill that was just passed is another very inflationary thing. So inflation is real. If that draws us into a recession that reduces demand, that's one thing. But when I talk to people about wanting to buy cars and wanting to, what everybody still think they still have cash. Now, I don't know if that's businesses or people. There's this weird conversation I still can't get away from with Tesla is about how far can it go, and is it going to get stuck in the freezing cold after last week's bomb cyclone, and we need to work on that training for people to understand that electric cars are actually better in those scenarios. But I don't know. I guess you guys might be right, but I'm not feeling reduction in demand due to a recession yet.
I mean, Elon says people don't buy debt products when there's a recession, which means the auto market will crash, and it also means that property market will crash. If property markets crash, then everyone has less money. They have a high interest on their debt. They aren't going out and buying cars when they're too worried about that they've lost. The people are saying a 40% market crash in property. People are not happy when they've lost 40% of not the equity, of the value of the house. They could have lost all their equity. This isn't a good state of mind. This is just like saying, well, this is potentially what could happen. A lot of people are saying this. We haven't hit a recession yet. We aren't in a recession yet, a real recession. Like you're saying, people still have jobs. In a recession, people don't have jobs. They lose their jobs because economies break. They're going to break the economy to stop the inflation. If they do that, they may decide that it's not as bad and pivot instead and decide, okay, we'll go for inflation, because if we have to stop it, the inflation, then breaking the economy this much is going to put us into a depression, not a recession. So it just depends on which extreme they go to. It's like they have a choice. They can either drive the car off the cliff or drive the car into the cliff. It's too difficult for them to correct it on the road at this stage, and they don't know what's going to happen. They're obviously not very incompetent either, so it's just too hard to tell.
I go to the Fremont factory a lot, and I have for 5 years, to watch how busy that factory is and the 2 stores that are associated with it. And the stores today are packed with buyers, people signing and buying cars. So I'm very happy with where the demand is. I think we're hitting a margin squeeze, right? Because they had to lower the price to get that demand. And we're really wondering what's going on in China. How bad is China short term? And, if China's doing well, we're doing well. If China's doing badly, we're doing badly. I don't care how hard the Fremont workers are working. It doesn't matter too much if China's having a bad month.
We have been seeing demand drop in the US towards the end of the year. The waiting list used to be about 7 months, and then November it dropped down to 1 to 4 months, and then to about 0 to 3 months, and after that. But there is the $7,500 tax credit, which any rational consumer would simply wait a couple of months to save that much money. It's a big saving. So that's a lot of noise in potential demand. So it's hard to judge, really.
I know people waiting on hardware 4 or autopilot 4 on their deliveries too. There's a lot of reasons to wait right now, whether it be tax credits, upcoming hardware. Now, granted, the people waiting on hardware are the savvy customers that probably already own a Tesla, not a new customer. But lowering the price at the end of the year, I think, is purely about the tax credits next month. That's going to vaporize in my mind soon. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think oh, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I would say that the big thing the only thing that really needs to change, because we can't control every company, we can't control the market, we can't control the recession, is execution. And if you look at Matt was pointing out that the other EV companies are similarly down. They don't execute the way Tesla does. Even the big boys are scaling back their ambitions. Even the survey of auto executives was very bright on EVs just a couple years ago, and now not so much. Tesla is still the one pushing the industry forward, and it shows in the numbers. And that's what's going to move the stock up is when we see the numbers next month. I think they're going to be great. And when we see them, especially the quarter after that and all through next year, it's going to be the one shining spot throughout the auto industry. And I'm confident that's going to push the numbers back up.
Okay, guys, we have 5 minutes left. Let me ask. I'm sorry, Yashu. I interrupted you. Go ahead and answer your question first.
Just quickly going to say, I think the biggest thing is the margins And we have to know how the 4680s and the gigacastings, which will happen eventually, hit the bottom line. If they can lower costs by, no one's really projecting them to have a material impact on margins right now. In fact, margins are set to go down by 4 or 5% gross margin next year by Morgan Stanley. I'm just reading a note right now. If those have a cost reduction effect, then there could be an outsized surprise there. But of course, that's predicated on Tesla executing, and execution is the name of the game next year. So Tesla has to earn its stripes here next year into a recession.
All right, we have 5 minutes left.
Even with about 20% margins, you're still looking at possibly $15 billion in earnings next year, which is amazing. You know, at 20% margins, the Model 3 and the Model Y, they start to look like pretty good prices relative to all the competition, especially any electric competition. And then obviously with $7,500 off on top of that, it becomes quite reasonable. And then obviously the savings of no fuel, but still a $15 billion earnings is good. There's PE ratio of forward PE of over 20. So, you know, that's not bad.
All right. So one last question for everybody in the panel. Let's turn the mood around a bit. I know it could be pretty dire next year, but what can we look forward to in 2023? Are we going to be partying together at all at some time, or that's just not going to happen at all? Like, could we be at the Giga Mexico launch party in December next year, or maybe the robot demo, or what? Let's go down the list here. Jason?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Cybertruck, but I'm actually kind of for Q4, I'm excited about Megapacks. And there's a lot of kind of mystery about what are the Megapack financials going to look like, and what are the margins going to be, and for Tesla Energy. And I think that we've seen 10% margins for the past, I don't know, a couple quarters or past few years. But I think with the ramping up of the Lathrop factory, and we'll see dramatically increased utilization of the resources, or the factory that's used to produce the Megapack. We're going to see really possibly increasing margins. I don't think they'll be where they will eventually land at, which could be like 40 to 50% margins, which is better than the cars. But I think it'll be higher than 10%, definitely. It might drag down the auto margins a little bit in Q4 because it's going to be a bigger component of the overall mix and product mix and revenue. But I think I'm really excited about watching that margin number grow over the next several quarters. And there's a massive ramp up happening at Lathrop. This is like kind of a 0 to 1 situation. They're not like gradually scaling. Like it's a huge change, I think, from Q4 to Q3. I mean, from Q3 to Q4. So Megapack, I think, is one thing I'm really excited about for the first half of next year, and then Cybertruck for the later half, and FSD, of course, right? That's going to be great.
Nice, Kristen.
It's hard not to just piggyback on that. The Cybertruck, obviously, for selfish reasons, I'm just looking forward to that finally launching and getting out. And I think what Scobalizer stated holds a lot of weight. I think that was a great angle that you took. That I think the truck itself coming out, and people who are big truck people being into that, will be a big boost. So that's a really good way to go. I'm kind of rooting for Tesla, possibly to introduce that compact car that we've all been wondering if it's around the corner, if it's completely gone altogether. So,
oh, I hope so. Yeah, maybe an announcement. Matt.
I'm going to piggyback on what Jason was saying. I think that is something that is completely underappreciated, or frankly just completely missed by Wall Street, is the energy margin potentials coming out of the Megapacks as Lathrop ramps. That's really going to be impactful, I think, and it's a question of how big are the revenues going to be and at what margins. But you're going to be going from less than $1 billion per quarter to 2, 3, 4, 5 billion potentially by the end of the year. And analysts are going to have to revise their assumptions and their earnings estimates, and that's going to both impact the E, like we were talking about earlier with Lee, but also the PE potentially, as the market ascribes a higher multiple for the growth potential of Tesla Energy. So that, I think, could be like the biggest dark horse kind of surprise next year.
Awesome. I don't think we have enough time. Let's thank you everybody for joining. I think we have another group coming, but if there's 2 people that can actually stay, So I don't know who wants to do that, but please do. And thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciated this. This was little good information, lots of data. Maybe we can have a little more fun next time, but maybe this is not the time for that. So
see everybody.
It is.
Version 11,
Tequila in
Cybertruck
Mexico.
2023.
Thanks,
Let's go.
everybody. I just want to make
everyone.
one correction. It's Lathrop, y'all. Lathrop.
I thought it was
Okay.
Lathrop. Then I jumped on
Lathrop.
Jason. Okay.
Christ.
I assumed
Lathrop.
Jason knew better than I did.
It's funny because I grew up near there. I should know, right? But you know, it's like that's even worse.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Two people can stay though, eh? So I don't know.
Hello.
Hey, Ellie, how you doing? Woo!
Hello.
We're in space as Ellie now. You're
Howdy,
traveling
Ellie.
all
Good to
over
see
the
you.
world. Where are
Hello,
you now,
Charlie.
Ellie?
Oh wait, hold on. It's echoing. Sorry. Okay. Hey, sorry.
Yeah. Where are you now? You're all over the world. You're
I'm in
traveling all the time.
Portland, Oregon.
Okay. And you just came back from Florida though, right? Last month?
No, I just came back from Austin, Texas. But yeah, what crazy weather we had a few days ago, right, Herbert? You guys had those
Yeah.
icy roads.
Everything
and
was ice. Yeah.
crazy.
My daughter was in the airport for 15 hours. And then it was all canceled. And then but luckily the next day, but she was able
Oh
to fly.
wow. Hi, James
But
How are you?
and Jordan
Hey, what's up?
and Farzad. Jeff,
Hello,
I don't
hello.
remember you.
Hello.
wait, so you don't know Jeff?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, he's
Are we-
like rocking it. He's like always in a.
Are we doing
Big-
introductions
I'm just
again?
here.
Maybe.
Yeah. What do you think, Farzad? Was that format good last time, or should we just open it up and just have a
Yeah.
chat? What do you guys think?
I mean, everybody already watched us transition into this the way we did, so might as well just whatever, go with it. Let's do some intros and
Yeah.
just go around the horn, and then I mean, I really like the way it flowed into the conversation last time too. It kind of just transformed into a conversation. Yeah, and we just got.
All right. Well,
Farzad
why don't
as
we do
well.
it this
Perfect.
way? Instead of me doing the introduction, let's have one person here introduce the other person. So, unfortunately, Ellie and Jeff don't know each other, but everyone else knows each other, right? So, who knows Ellie better than I do? Come on.
Oh God.
No one?
I can do
All
that.
right,
I mean, I can. You want to do it, Jordan? Go ahead.
I can do a
You
little
it.
bit. All right. So Ellie in space, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm gonna the pressure. All right. So Ellie in space has a space channel, and you started maybe a year, 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. And
Almost
she's
2 years. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So Ellie was originally a reporter, so she has that nice reporter backbone. On the scene, she's really good off the cuff doing interviews and things like that, and she's gone full time on YouTube. I think it was maybe 9 months ago, something like that. So
Like 5 or 6 months.
5 months ago. Okay.
But good
All
job.
right.
Good job. Great
All right,
job.
who can introduce Jordan?
Oh, I got that one. I can get Jordan all day, man. He is the battery guru. If you need to know anything about your 2178 650s, your 4680s, Jordan is your man. And he goes deep, man. He goes into the chemistry. He goes into the production. He goes all the way up the supply chain, through the minerals, you name it. Jordan is so good at it that when they actually were trying to figure out how to put together the bill that would actually make batteries produced in America viable once again, his was the explainer that they actually showed to members of, was it Congress or Senate, Jordan?
Well, it was the people who wrote the policy at like Rocky Mountain Institute, and then the bill went through to Congress after that. So both houses, etc. Yeah.
So how you got him on this channel, I will never know. But good work, Herbert, and welcome, Jordan.
If I don't want to talk about batteries with Jordan, what other topic is he capable of talking to me about?
Headphones. No, I don't. Tax policy in New Zealand, of course.
God, look at that memory.
All right, well, we're going to skip you, Brian, because we already introduced you last time. So who can introduce Joy, everybody? Welcome, Joy. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Herbert. It's great to see everybody.
Yeah. Where are you now also? Because you were just in Taiwan, weren't you?
Oh,
And-
yeah. I've been back for like 2.5 weeks now.
Okay.
I was in
But what
Canada,
happened?
but I came back December 11th.
Okay. Who wants to introduce Joy? Who knows her better than I do? I know everybody.
Yeah, I don't think anybody here knows me.
Oh my gosh.
I think the one that knows me the longest probably is Earl. Because I actually met Earl in 2019 at the Cybertruck unveiling.
I don't know what's going on with Earl, but look what's going on, Farzad. What the hell? What's happening?
I don't think his camera's on.
Or his microphone.
And it's
or his microphone.
Hey.
There you are.
Sorry,
there?
I was just eating chips. I thought that would be pretty annoying. Listen.
Yes, it is.
That's very bad,
It is
right?
annoying, Earl.
I mean, how
It's Earl
irritating
being
can
Earl.
someone be?
Can you introduce Joy, Earl, or forget it, or what?
Oh my gosh, what can I say about Joy? Well, I met Joy in person. She's even more delightful than she is online. What an absolute wonderful presence. And have followed her account for a long time. But she is a huge Tesla fan who, I don't know, is famous for a lot of things, but also around, I don't know if you remember, around the time of the Trevor Milton stuff was pretty involved, which was pretty awesome. So anyway, welcome, Joy.
Hey, Earl, it's so good to hear your voice. Haven't seen you in so long.
Oh, I know.
Person.
It's been forever.
Yeah.
We need another Tesla event.
We do. I'm having withdrawals.
Can we see your face, Earl? Can we see your face?
No.
We don't want to see his face.
I'm sneaking on here at work right now. I need all kinds of problems.
Oh yeah,
I'm just pretending I'm not at work.
We understand.
Okay, who can introduce James Dauma? I mean, the guy's been on every single episode every day. He's like, whoa.
Maybe
I can do it.
you know, the one person I can introduce is me. maybe I would get saved by doing that because I'm really comfortable with doing an introduction for somebody else. So I'm an engineer. I'm an autodidact. I been studying AI for a long time, even though I never got a chance to work in the space. I dropped out of college in the 80s and I started a couple of companies. At some point, I decided it was a lot easier to invest money than to work 100-hour days, 100-hour weeks. So I switched over to doing that kind of stuff. And when deep learning took off after 2012, I started looking really hard for investments in the deep learning space, like something that would be close to a pure play that depended on the stuff that I was interested in. And oddly enough, I came up with Tesla, which is, nominally a car company, but it turns out to have the most exposure there. So I got really interested in trying to understand Tesla's tech, especially around the self-driving stuff. And then at some point a couple of years ago, Dave Lee reached out to me and asked me to come on his channel and help do some explainers. And so since then I've done, I don't know, like 100 hours of YouTube. I think it's literally like 100 hours of YouTube videos on Dave's channel. So, so that's me.
Dave Lee made you famous? I thought you were famous before him.
Am I famous now?
You are. You are.
I can't be famous for anything good, but yeah, I mean, that's how the community is going to know me, from the explainers I do on Dave's channel.
Wonderful. Okay, who else hasn't been introduced? Jeff Lutz.
Yeah, I can go, Herbert.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been a Tesla investor for 10 years now, and also an owner for 10 years, and really happy with both. And I come from a tech background and operations background, and a couple decades running supply chain in a couple different tech companies. And I really like to approach Tesla from an operational perspective and from a product perspective as well, in terms of what they're doing. And just happy to be on the space, or not the space, but this chat with this group of people that kind of talk about the year in recap.
Nice. John, welcome. Oh, we lost him.
He's having technical issues.
Oh no. Okay.
And just a heads up, Herbert, we got Alexandra in the waiting room, but we're currently full. Just give me a heads.
Yeah. Alexandra is like moving into.
Herbert, Farzad, why don't I go ahead and pop out since I was in here last hour, and that'll make room for Alexandra. Everybody, thank you so much. It was awesome seeing you all.
Thanks,
and I cannot wait to see you guys again.
Thank you. Hey, Alexandra, which vacation home are you at?
I am close to the vineyard. You know, my husband is a founder of a vineyard for 30 years. And so we're meeting all the kids in Paso Robles, which is halfway between San Francisco and LA. And there we are. And I just checked in and it's all a mess. And I'm so happy to be with you so I don't have to undo everything.
Well, are you relaxing? Because you've been pretty hardcore the last 3 months.
I will in half an hour. Thanks for having me on.
Nice. John, welcome. Can you do an intro for everybody? I mean, you're the one with the most followers. I think you have 700,000 followers. So
not quite. I think we're at like 630,000. But yeah, so John from Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley. We run the largest owners club in North America for Tesla owners. And yeah, just started this community locally in the Bay Area where it was the former Tesla headquarters about 4 years ago. So it's been an awesome pleasure to just serve the community locally and then kind of obviously broader as we've just kind of been a voice of the community for the past several years, just growing our following and our connection with Elon as well.
Okay, welcome. Okay, so the last group was very depressing. They were talking about the macro hitting 2022, that there's going to be a massive recession 2023. So I want this group to be a little bit more happier. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. So you have to tell me what it is. But right? Yes, it's joy. So what I want you guys to do is each of you go man and give me a prediction, just your prediction of what's going to happen in 2023. If it's negative, it's negative. I'm not trying to, put any kind of like a weird filter glasses on. But what's your prediction of what's going to happen in 2023? How's it going to roll out? Okay, let's start with you, John. You're at the top left there. Go for it.
Perfect. Totally agree.
That's his prediction. Okay,
Good
John.
Good job, John. Moving on.
Okay, Alexandra, you're next.
I actually think Tesla will surprise everybody with delivery numbers as of beginning of January, and even more so with the earnings end of January. So I think the company will perform very well. We'll hear of new gigas. We'll hear of gigas. I'm sorry, I always say gigas. Of new gigas. We'll hear of new products. We'll see the Cybertruck finally on the roads. So I actually think it's going to be for Tesla a good year. And I'm a firm believer that this recession is going to be much softer than everybody fears. I don't think this is going to be the big catastrophe that everybody's talking about. So I'm very happy for it. I'm very much looking forward to 2023.
Oh, we should have had you in the first group, but okay. Let's go.
Sorry about that.
Jordan.
All right.
Up.
There's a whole lot to look forward to. So they've just started the ramp of the 4680. That's starting to hit some scale and some steam now. So they've been progressing that at like 30% per month. If that continues through the coming year, we're going to be at tens of gigawatt hours by the end of the year with the 4680 ramp. And then we have the version 11. So that's just, as customer, that'll be cool to get version 11 of FSD. And then they can probably start recognizing more revenue off of that. You have the Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to buoy Tesla on both ends. First, it'll allow them to keep their margins high, even though the economy will probably be tanking. And then on top of that, they should be able to get some cream on the back end, like thousands of dollars per vehicle from the tax credits on the batteries. Now, I have no clue what the stock price is going to do. However, those three things, along with a few other things like the Cybertruck ramp, possibly the unveiling of a new vehicle, means that even if the stock price does drop, that's a buying opportunity. That's stock price compression. So, I'm looking forward to the next year. No clue what the stock price will do, but it looks good.
Dang, man, your voice is smooth. Oh, Brad. I thought Farzad had a good voice. Now I don't think so anymore.
You thought wrong.
Yeah. Yours is good voice only because of your friggin' expensive mic. That's it. But Jordan's like natural. That's awesome.
I agree.
Okay, we missed you, John. We were asking, what is your prediction for 2023?
Tesla specific or just in general?
Anything, yeah, whatever.
So I work in tech, and so I'm probably gonna maybe I'll be not the doom and gloom, but we're seeing tech just being hit like hard right now. And unfortunately, like my prediction is, I just don't see it really necessarily getting better. And I'm just talking the tech sector. I'm not talking like, other industries. But we've had over 40,000 layoffs worldwide in tech, 11,000 from Meta, 10,000 from Amazon. And again, this is across the world, but still a lot hit here. And so as far as the job market, it's going to be pretty grim out there. It's going to, a lot of people fighting for the same job. But at least as far as what I can see, as far as tech in general, it doesn't feel like it's going to get a lot better anytime soon. There's not any big indicators within the economy, especially with the Feds running the rates, where it's going to get better. As far as Tesla goes, they're the unique story where they're growing 40%. The growth of the company is not slowing down really at all, right? Obviously, we have, some of this stuff with the recession happening, but every company that's down 60, 70% is because of growth slowing or some other big factors. The funny thing is that Tesla's down 60, 70%, but they're growing at 40%. So, which is unheard of. So I'm personally really excited for next year, even if growth slows a little bit on sales, all the stuff that they're going to be doing, given the cash that they have, they'll definitely be doubling down on, the things that they're going to be working on, Cybertruck, a couple new gigafactories as well. And so, I'm personally really excited for the future and what we're going to be doing next year, specifically for Tesla. But I would say overall for tech, it's not going to be as strong and probably a little bit worse. So
was that your notification saying, yes, that was a good remark?
Yeah, exactly. Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, Joy, welcome. Tell us what you think, 2023.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not an economist. I'm not in the financial business sector. My background is also tech and technology, and I am currently in the recruiting business. I do echo what John just said about the tech sector. With all these layoffs from the big companies coming. So next year, I think there will be, I don't want to say recession yet, because I have been through 2001 WorldCom collapse and 2008 collapse myself. But right now I am not feeling that it's going to be as big as those, but there will be some slowdowns coming the next year. But Tesla-wise, I think if they keep on track, just keep focused on doing what they're doing right now, getting FSD better and get Cybertruck on track, keep pushing the energy market, I think they're going to come out as the winner after the end of all this.
Yeah. Ellie?
Herbert, I thought you were called Brighter with Herbert, and that last hour was not brighter at all. I listened to it. And so
exactly.
Enthusiasm. Predictions for 2023. Obviously, we hope to see Cybertruck. At last check, there's 1.5 million pre-orders. So obviously there's a lot of demand and we hope to see that ramp. Also, I would love to see a Tesla Semi actually on the road. So hopefully we'll spot more of those, more Gigafactory announcements. So I think 2023 will be a great year and we just got to stay positive.
Yeah, I think so too. James.
So 2023, I was doing a recap of my 2022 stuff, and I found on January 2nd, I said, 2022 is going to be so awesome. I found that this morning and retweeted it, but I feel similarly about 2023. I'm not super optimistic about the economy. I'm probably in Alexandra's bin, where I think it's not going to be as bad as some people think it is, but it's probably not going to pass us by. But I actually feel like recessions are a good thing to have sweep through once in a while. They separate people who can execute from people who can't. And, as far as Tesla goes, I mean, I think one of the things that really distinguishes them from the other players in their space is they can execute. So I'm expecting 2023 to be a time when they tend to increase the gap more than they would have if we hadn't had a recession. In as far as Tesla's tech in particular, aside, I mean, super excited about semi, super excited about Cybertruck, super excited, especially about the battery ramp. I'm really optimistic about energy, and I'm hoping that their battery ramp gets them to where they can start ramping energy. I think those things are all going to be great. We're going to see them play out in 2023, and they'll stop being things that we just talk about and start being things that we get some numbers behind. I think 2023 is probably a year when FSD goes from interventions being a common experience to interventions becoming a rare experience. I don't know. I would predict that we'll be taking all the drivers out of the car this year, but I think there's a good chance, that the tech will be capable of doing that next year, and we'll see good progress this year toward that goal. And aside from that, the space that I'm in, this, deep learning has it's had quite the renaissance going on. I mean, it's funny to describe something as a renaissance in a field that's basically new anyway, but the rate at which like really impressively awesome stuff comes out is just getting faster and faster, and I'm expecting that to continue through 2023. Like, I don't know what we're going to see, because I keep seeing these things where they're mind-blowing, and I'm trying, okay, well, what comes next? And you draw a blank. But then, a month later, another really amazing thing pops out. So I don't know what they're going to be, but I'm expecting a lot of really impressive developments in the field. And I'm hoping to see some of the more recent developments, because after you get a tech, it takes a couple of years to build a business around it. And I'm hoping to see some significant businesses emerge around the techs that have gotten to some level of maturity in the last couple of years. So I'm really looking forward to 2023. A lot of stuff that I've been looking forward to over the last couple of years, I think, is going to come to fruition in this window of time. So I'm excited about 2023.
Very, very disappointing answer from my perspective. I didn't hear the word bot once. Why? Come on, James.
So it's this is what I said at the beginning of a year ago. I just was reviewing our videos from a year ago, and I'm really excited about the bot. I think the humanoid robot is it's hard to overstate the impact that's going to happen as it matures. But that said, it's not something that matures in a year. You can make a lot of progress in a year and still not have, a bot that can fold your laundry. So we're not going to see bots folding laundry this year, unfortunately. I think we are going to see a lot of interesting progress now that Tesla's got a prototype that they can develop against, because that was a big challenge up until now. They've got to get a basic hardware platform out that they can start developing against. They've got a basic hardware platform. I feel like what we saw at AI Day provides that. And so I would expect that the software end of things to start ramping pretty quickly. And hopefully this year we'll see some significant capability, some utility from the robot, something that they can turn loose in a factory and not just start gathering data, but start getting real world experience with, how to build robots that do useful things in the real world. So that's going to happen for sure.
Okay. Jeff, 2023, what's your prediction?
A lot. Does my mic sound okay, Herbert?
Yes. It's never perfect. It's terrible again, but we'll take it.
It's never perfect. It's terrible again. We'll take it. So on Tesla, I'm quite hopeful, but I realize that there could be looming macroeconomic conditions. But I always like looking at the data, and I looked at U.S. auto sales from 07, 08, 09. There was a very deep recession in 09. It was bank driven, and U.S. auto sales went from 16.16 million to 10.43. That's a 36% drawdown during the recession. And so when you look at what Tesla is doing from an EV percent share of total auto, they went from 4.7 million last year. The estimates are to go to 7% of total auto sales in the U.S. this year. In China, they're predicting to actually double from 11% of total auto sales in China last year to 22% this year. So when you look at it in a very deep and dark, bank-driven recession, U.S. auto was down 36%. If Tesla is capable of continuing that growth, even if it not Tesla's growth, but just growth as a percent of total auto, it may not be as bad as so I'm in that camp of it may not be as bad, but I'm cautious. The other thing I always kind of remind people, again, coming from an operations background, is follow what Tesla is doing from a capacity perspective. They've actually installed the 2 million unit annualized capacity. They've actually brought in the labor to run at that rate, and that's one of the reasons they put that reduction on in the U.S. The 7,500 reduction was to actually start consuming product for the sellout of that product to go at the rate they expect it to in the following year. So one thing none of us have is we don't have visibility to Tesla's order book. But what we do have through what they share is what they're doing from a capacity perspective. And I don't think in this kind of economic environment, I don't see them being irresponsible with capacity. So they've installed 2 million units of capacity. And we kind of heard what Elon said on Twitter Spaces about just driving unit volume in line with the vision of the company. Even if you have to take some price reductions. And again, they've got a lot of room to move on price reductions. Commodities are rolling over. So there's puts and takes on both sides, but there's a lot of, I would say, good guys or favorables that we don't spend enough time on sometimes. I know we're all a little bit bulled up, but I think it's important to kind of look at both sides of the equation. So I'm pretty hopeful. And again, with the IRA as well, that's going to help with the economics with the consumer. It's going to help with the economics of Tesla, as Jordan said as well. We don't know to what extent, but we know it's going to help. And we know Tesla is moving a lot of capacity to the U.S. to consume that. So again, overall, I'm pretty hopeful. I think macro-wise, there's going to be, I would say the first half, if you're looking at markets, I mean, the consensus view is the first half may be rockier than the second, but we'll see.
Thanks. Wonderful. Earl, you think differently than everyone else here. So what's your prediction for 2023?
2023, I think that it's going to be, I think macro-wise, I think it's going to be terrible. I don't expect much out of the Tesla stock price, to be honest, in the new year. Hopefully, I'm wrong about that, but I think it's going to take some time. I don't think the barfing is over yet. However, Tesla is not the stock price at all, right? So it's going to be an amazing year for Tesla and for Tesla fans, because you have the ramping of the semi-truck, as people have mentioned. That's fantastic. Great news for EVs. I think their energy business is going to come alive. Who knows what that wacky bot's going to do this year. But most importantly is the Cybertruck. Not just that they come out with a new product and ramp it, but think of the attention, the positive attention to Tesla as they start to deliver these things to people, the videos, the YouTubers, Twitter, all the goofy things people are going to be doing with their Cybertrucks. I can't wait for it. That thing is so awesome and is really something that we didn't really get this year. We got the Semi, kind of came out, but this year was all about ramping, so was not as exciting, I don't think. But I think next year is going to be great. My prediction is at the Cybertruck event, they're going to roll out a Semi, and the back of it is going to be full of a bot army. I don't know the purpose of it yet. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Bold
Okay.
prediction.
Let's talk Twitter. I'm going to give everybody 1 minute, and you can just use that 1 minute to say anything you want to say about Twitter. But before we get there, let's go to Farzad. What's your 2023 prediction? And then give me your 1 minute on Twitter.
Oh, God. All right. Yeah. So my prediction is that I do think I am looking at the macro stuff very closely right now. And it's weird because it looks like some segments are dipping more than others. It does look like, I'm talking to people going on vacation. I'm talking to people traveling. It seems like airports are just as full as they've ever been. People are going shopping just as much as they used to. And so I think what's going to be important to track going into next year is what is the economy going to actually do, and how's the Fed going to pivot based on what the economy is saying, right? And we talked about this in the previous hour. So, but I do think in terms of Tesla, I do feel very, very confident that the company is going to do great. I do think they have a lot of demand globally. some of the fears recently about China, I think, are just blown out of proportion. They're dealing with a giant COVID wave that they never dealt with before. Something like, I mean, I read reports that there's something like at least 1 million cases a day, 5,000 deaths a day. I mean, this is crazy stuff. This is like worse than peak COVID in a lot of countries. So that's going to take a huge toll. But I do think over time, what's going to end up happening is a transition over to EVs is going to solidify. And when you have every single world government given incentives, especially with the US starting in January with IRA, if you look at the the inventories now for all new Tesla, especially 3 and Y, it's sold out completely. And the thing I think a lot of people have missed too in the US is that now Tesla cars, the 3 and the Y, are now cheaper relative to basically every other automaker, because every other automaker has been able to take advantage of the legacy tax credit. And Tesla hasn't been able to do that for like 2 years. So the net price of a Tesla is $7,500 cheaper versus the competition. And companies like Hyundai, for example, like the Ioniq 5, they lose the tax credit because they don't have manufacturing in the US, right? So like there is like this huge change now where Tesla goes from one of the most expensive to one of the least expensive, at least in its class. So, and I think that's going to carry a lot of momentum into next year. Twitter, there's nothing controversial about this whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say start and I'm going to cut you off. Go.
Oh, are you actually putting me on a timer? Okay. So I do think, I think the net, I think it's a net positive. I really do think so. There have been some challenges when it comes to having a social media platform where people trust that it's doing the right thing by the people. Now, this sounds kind of like big and abstract, but I think that has a lot more weight than it seems. I like the fact that it's somebody in Elon and the sort of teams that he builds that's taking that on, which to me means that Twitter will be one of the best social media platforms on planet Earth probably by the end of next year. I think there's challenges with somebody as outspoken as Elon, having him being the leader and the referee, which causes a lot of friction. But my hope is that Elon, as he's shown in the past, will pivot and fix some of the challenges and mistakes that he's made, especially from some of the divisive stuff. And a lot of this will just be a blip in the radar of an otherwise great journey.
Okay, Alexandra, 1 minute. Anything you want to say about Twitter?
I actually agree with Farzad that the worst is over. I mean, the noisiest part is over. There are still some Twitter files coming. Elon has announced he's going to nominate a CEO. I don't know who would take that job, but good luck to that person. Then the other thing is the product development that they're going to roll out. They've announced it will be in the next 6 to 18 weeks, right? So that is very short. And if they start monetizing Twitter they want the way they want it. I actually liked yesterday that message that maybe they're purchasing Substack, which I think is really a very good platform they could add there. So if this all comes together that quickly, we will have quickly reassurance that Twitter is self-sustaining, cash flow positive, and won't be a bother on Tesla share price anymore. I'm not saying it's going to be quiet. I mean, if we ever hope that Elon is going to be a quiet person, he didn't buy this to be quiet, right? But I do believe that the issues that were of financial matters or that were of not enough revenue matters are going to be solved very quickly, and then Twitter will become the platform where people want to be, because it's just the most interactive platform. I mean, anything else is boring, right? Facebook, Snapchat, even TikTok is boring today compared to Twitter.
Okay, John, you got 1 minute on Twitter. Anything?
Perfect. Can you hear me? I just want to make
yes.
Okay.
Sound good.
Perfect. Sorry, I was just getting the set up a little bit earlier. But so personally, I'm really excited for what he's going to do at Twitter. Aside from a lot of the Tesla noise that's happening right now, we have one of the greatest entrepreneurs literally pulling his sleeves up and getting his hands dirty. I think he even mentioned that what has happened in the past, 6 to 8 weeks has been probably one of the biggest transformations in history as far as acquisitions go. I do think we actually waited to release a couple of clips from our interview because we didn't want to cause any distractions to the actual acquisition when it was going to happen. But he talked about making this like WeChat. So I'm personally like, there's no other media platform out there that really brings to life the news as quick as you want it, literally with a snap of fingers, but really where it can go, right? And the interaction with pretty much anyone you want. It's a very flat economy, and that's what I love personally about Twitter. So I'm really excited, how they're going to create content creator. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm excited for the future.
Good. I believe I feel the same way you do. Joy.
Yes. So Twitter, it's so messy right now. But I personally am grateful that Elon took it over and made it more transparent for everybody. And unfortunately, it's gotten messy because now all the differing opinions are being heard and there are conflicts. Sadly, even within the Tesla community on Twitter that I've been seeing lately with, people just going against one another. But it reminded me of our national motto, which is out of many, one. So Twitter is going to be the public square for a lot of people to voice their opinions, whether you agree with it or not. But I hope that people will be respectful of one another. But personally, I do feel that Twitter has been a distraction for Elon. And I'm glad that he is going to have someone else take over Twitter so that he can go back and focus on Tesla and SpaceX and his other ventures.
Thanks. Okay. James.
I think Twitter's not the real world and it gets too much attention. And I think that what people say doesn't matter as much as what they do. It would be nice if we paid more attention to things that are happening in the real world, like what is happening at Tesla and what is happening at SpaceX and what's happening at Neuralink or the Boring Company or the companies that are out there like doing stuff. I don't want to say that communication doesn't, that it's not relevant or it doesn't have its place, but it gets an outsized slice of people's attention. And I find it kind of ironic that the Tesla community has been accusing Elon of being distracted by Twitter when, from my perspective, it seems like it's the Tesla community that's been distracted by it.
Okay, perfect. Ellie.
Twitter. I think Alexandra said it best is that, the other platforms kind of feel boring now. I've been using social media for a long time, and this is the most I've ever used Twitter. I was kind of doing that before Elon took over, but definitely now it's like, it is kind of a mess, but I'm also on it probably too much. But I would like to see someone like maybe Mr. Beast step in, and I know that he volunteered to be CEO, so he might be a little crazy for that, but to see Twitter become a, creator economy and more incentives for people that are full-time creators on YouTube to be on Twitter, I think that we're going to see a lot of changes in 2023. And I think Mr. Beast would be a great fit for that role because he just obviously knows so much about YouTube and what users and creators want in a platform. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Jordan?
Oh boy, there's a lot of different aspects to this. So I wrote down three aspects. The first is Elon's time at Twitter affecting Tesla's ability to execute? From my perspective, no. Now, as a platform, I saw WeChat a decade ago, and it seemed like it was so much better than anything we had, like in the US. So it's high time we finally had a comprehensive social media platform that can perform a lot of different functions, and I think it's going to be an exciting business to watch. Now, in terms of the broader societal impacts, I think it's going to be one of the most important things that Elon did, because there was, at least from my perspective, there was a monolithic narrative forming, and on a lot of different topics, and I feel like that was suffocating discussion on a lot of things, and it's uncomfortable when the Overton window has to reopen a little bit. But I think overall it's a very positive thing. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Didn't you have a third thing, or you?
Oh, those are three. There's like in relation to Tesla as a platform itself, and then society.
Okay, Earl. I guess you have nothing to say about Twitter, right?
I just downloaded it. It's a pretty cool app. Giving it a try.
Okay, can you hold yourself to 1 minute on Twitter? Go.
Yeah.
Anything you want. You already had your conversation with Elon.
Well,
So
I think Twitter has gone exactly how I feared it would go, where it's kind of a disaster. You know, any guidance counselor would not have suggested social media CEO for Elon. He's an engineer, and there's a lot of social nuances that it's just been the struggle that I've expected. But like I also said when he took it over, I'm excited to see what he does with the platform. The guy's a success, and he's probably going to do really cool things with it. And this beginning part will pass. I think we'll move from the look at all the bad things the last people did to here's what I'm going to do better. So I'm waiting for those days, but it's got to be a net positive for Tesla. I mean, he owns a great social media platform, so I think in the end it'll be good.
Yeah, Jeff, did we get to you, or did we skip you?
No, can you hear me okay better now?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. No, I do have three things. One is I agree with Ellie's, like you almost need a product CEO, like someone who's really focused on the product, can connect with consumers, can connect with advertisers. And then you actually need someone kind of running the business and engineering side. And if you can't find one person to do both, you may be better off getting the best person for each of those. And then kind of Elon can go into more of a chairman role and step back as soon as possible. So the earlier that happens, I think the better. I am excited. I mean, I know some of the changes and some of the rhetoric isn't, great or perfect, but it's to me, it's going to a place. It's not there yet. And I'm excited for the fact that, as Jordan said, we don't have this one kind of like monolith discussion. It's kind of more opened up. So I think that's good. I think the effects that that's going to have on other social media platforms is what's going to be really exciting, because I think others can't just continue doing what they've been doing up to this point. And then the final thing is, I think the power of Twitter, I mean, it brought this whole community together, and it kind of, even if we're kind of going back and forth each other, we don't agree and we disagree on topics, it's still kind of every day we kind of come back together and collect on this forum. So I think it's actually a good thing.
Yeah. I'm actually very, very optimistic. And I think that Twitter, Elon just said that Twitter is going to be very beneficial to Tesla and Tesla investors. We don't know how it's going to happen, but I think that that's going to happen. And so while we are suffering right now, because Twitter was a real reason why the stock fell in the last 2 months, I think it's going to pay back to us eventually. So I'm very confident about that. And also now I'm starting to see all the different things that Twitter is able to do that's going to be very beneficial to society. And, the things that he's promising that is going to happen. I can't wait for X.com to come, the X app, everything app, and it's going to make our life better. We can't see it right now. And certainly there's been growing pains, but I think it's going to be really good. Okay. So let's kind of like open it up. Anybody can ask anybody questions. We got 15 minutes. Let's just have a chat. Anything you guys want to talk about?
I thought for sure we were going to talk about Cyber Rodeo.
What? That happened like 8 months ago. So what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about?
Well, it's called
You were
Cyber
there.
Recap.
Well, if no one wants to talk about it, I'm not going to talk.
Well, I do want to say, though, yesterday I went to the Peterson Automotive Museum here in LA for the Tesla exhibit, and they had the Cyber Rodeo neon sign there. So I took a selfie with it just to kind of,
remember.
What's that word?
Reminisce.
Thinking back, reminisce on what had happened at Cyber Rodeo. And then a lot of the things that they had on exhibit there, we actually saw them at the Cyber Rodeo. So it brought back really fun memories for me. So for anyone who is in LA area or plan to make a trip out here, this exhibit runs until October 22nd, 2023. So you still have like 10 months. Highly recommended. It's very well curated. It talks about the advancement, like really the history of Tesla, the history of Elon. And it also talked about FSD technology, the battery technology, their sales model, how it differs from legacy auto companies, and it also helps to fight FUD, with the way that they display some of the things. So highly recommended. And that's my little contribution to Cyber Rodeo.
I have a question for Farzad.
Oh God.
Yeah. So in terms of the fundamentals, I think they're solid at the moment. And one thing somebody brought up with me yesterday, there's been, I don't know about you guys, but the DMs have been super active over the past 3 to 4 weeks. There's been a lot of side conversations about what's going on. But one thing that came up is that because my understanding is Tesla employees, a lot of their compensation is like stock options, stock, etc. So does the stock price going down as much as it has, does that affect the motivation of the employees? How does that affect them?
That's a great question. Actually, I get that question a lot. There's definitely a subset of the employee base that look at the stock price and they're like, "Damn it!" Of course, it's part of their livelihood. But from the standpoint, this is what I experienced while I was at the company, and I don't work there anymore. I haven't worked there for over a year. I do have friends that work there. And typically the vibe is the stock is down, but we know what we're working on. We know that what we're working on is important. We believe that long term, this thing is going to be much bigger than it is now. And oftentimes you're just too busy to really have any emotions about it while you're there. And the work is so stimulating and it feels really important and big and difficult and challenging that it takes up so much of your, mental space that the stock price, even though, I'm sure the last few weeks have been very challenging for some, for sure, especially if you're, not an employee at the company and you have a lot of, say, of your net worth or a lot of your ability to operate as a human being from a financial standpoint, if it's tied to it a lot these last few weeks and months, it's super emotionally draining. I concede that 100%. But I think most employees just really don't care, and long term, because they're so confident that it's going to work out. But I'm sure it's like back of the head, they're like, oh, this kind of sucks. This kind of sucks. But at the same time, the really cool thing about working there is if you overperform and you do great, you get bonuses in stock. You're able to buy the employee stock purchase program at 15% off on a much lower price, right? So there is a benefit to that. In addition to you do have a job and you do have income, right? It's like salary plus stock. So in the end, I don't think it makes a difference, and it allows people that perhaps weren't able to capitalize on, say, 10 or 20x growth back in 2019, 2020, theoretically now they join the company, and if the company does what it says it's going to be, which is going to be largest company in the world by market cap, twice, as big as Saudi Aramco and Apple combined, that's 10x from here. So if people go in now and to wait long enough, theoretically, they're able to ride that wave up. So for many that are sad about the time, there's also an equal and larger amount of people that are looking at this situation as an opportunity to get in, and that's sometimes sometimes we forget about that, but that's absolutely true. And yeah.
Could I add a snippet on that as well? I think just in tech in general right now, like with all the companies laying off, even if it is going down, again, just across the board, where exactly are you going to go? There's nowhere safe to go right now. Even if you wanted to, let's say, go to another automaker like Rivian or even Lucid, they're in worse situations right now. So it's just one of those things where even if they are a little bit disgruntled about it, I think, sorry, the kids are kind of yelling in the background, but it's just, there's not really a lot of other places to go where you can say you're safe.
All right, so I'll weigh in on that. I've ridden a roller coaster at a tech company that had really highly volatile stock, and where almost all the employees got a significant amount of their compensation. And if you watch the roller coaster over time, I mean, nobody likes in the moment to see the stock price go down, but the way these awards tend to go is that annually you get re-upped. So based on your performance of what your award was going to be, you get a new award, and that new award is reset to whatever the current stock price is. So basically, people on an annual basis are getting new awards. And if you go through a period of time when the stock price is really low, a side effect of that is that 2 or 3 years later, after you recover from that slump, you have a lot of people who are incredibly happy because they ended up getting in really low. So over the long term, even if you're in a pretty volatile company, the effect kind of shakes out. And of course, the mood is, it's good when the stock is up and it's down when the stock is low. But the thing that's important in the long run is, the distraction is bad. The distraction of volatility is bad. But in the long run, it can be a way for you to retain employees that have been around for a significant amount of time and who have a lot to contribute to the company. And I think having the stock price bounce around in a weird kind of way, it actually contributes to that effect.
Very cool. I hadn't even thought of that. Oh, and are we going to finish here in 7 minutes, or are we going to go longer? Because
I can go longer. But I do want to go back to what Ellie was saying about Cyber Rodeo, right? That was the first time many of us met each other. Although, Ellie, I didn't meet you then, I don't think. But it was a special time, wasn't it? Wasn't it really special? Like, it was like one of the heights. Like, we were still in a high. And was that the peak? And are we ever going to get back to something like that again? Or
peak in what sense? Like the social peak for the community? Is that what you mean? Or
I think so. I mean, who went to Cyber Rodeo, right? I was there, and it was so exciting. It was fun, right? It's like you met each other for the first time, and you've been getting together. We felt like the company was on its way to success and greatness, and nothing's going to stop this thing. And we were all humbled.
Well,
I feel even more of that
experience. Again, you should come to the annual California Tesla owner takeover event.
Right. John, when is that?
July 29th through the 30th of 2023 in San Luis Obispo at the Madonna Inn. So we had 2,200 people last year. A lot of Tesla influencers like yourselves were there as well. So really something to build on. But really, obviously we'll see how they open up the product reveals and things like that. But if there's not something like that, this is a really cool community-run event.
How do you manage charging, getting everybody out there at the Madonna Inn? I mean, there's some good chargers, but nowhere near enough to service 2,200 cars.
It's funny you ask. That's everyone's question. There's literally 60 stalls within 20 minutes, and everyone charges literally at different times. Like there's been no lines the 2 years that we've done it in a row. There's no lines. People just I'll charge Friday night. I'm literally good till Sunday. And then that gets me to the next closest supercharger, and then I'm good.
I can attest to that. I went to it twice in a row. And I think the first year we were worried about it. And then this year we were worried about it again. But there is no problem whatsoever.
That's good to hear.
Is the Tesla community being fractured? Bulls fighting bulls? Because the Qs are winning. I don't know.
I mean, having watched this for a while, I'm not under the impression that this is a particularly bad. I mean, going through 2018, 2016, 17, 18, those are really rough. People legitimately thought the company might go out of business. I mean, you could say that people on the Tesla side of thing were more unified because we had this clear external enemy. But I mean, the mood is kind of low right now, but it's not like it's always been better than this, right? It's been really bad in the past too.
I think there are two camps in the so-called Tesla community. There's one camp of people that are actually owners that own the car, and we have the experience and we know what the product can do. And then another camp is just straight up investors, or maybe a third camp that has both. But I think, to me personally, my experience has been that there are a lot of straight up investors that are just trying to pump up the stock online. And I think a lot of people went with that, and they kind of lose sight of how the stock market performs and the overall economy goes. It just goes up and down, up and down. It's a cycle. so that a lot of people are frustrated right now. But to me, as a Tesla product owner, I'm fine. I mean, I do have some investment, but I'm not like I want to go die or like I need therapy, that type of thing. So that's my take on it.
Herbert, do you think it's fracturing?
I like your answer a lot. Yours is exactly what I think it is, which is it's always been here. It's always like this. But I do agree that because there is no longer this one arch enemy of ours, we just tend to pick up. Let's focus back on the mission. Where do you guys think that the world will be in 3 to 5 years because of Tesla? And what is it what drives you to be so passionate about this community? Go for it. Yeah.
The tech is insane. The company is this totally unique opportunity. And this, like, I've been watching companies for a really long time. I've never seen anything like this. It's a total phenomenon. How many companies can you just feel so unabashedly good for? Like once you get on the inside story, and it's going to do great economically. It's going to do great things for the world. As a dork, the technology is insane. And like, I've never seen, there have been companies in the past where I thought that would be a cool place to work because they were working on some cool stuff. I literally have never seen companies where I thought the culture at that company is so good that me as an engineer, like, that's the place I want to work. I want to go work someplace where, the way engineers think and the desire to get something done and to get something out the door and to have it be something important, not just to the bottom line, but that delights customers and that changes their life in a positive way. I've never seen a company with the potential for Tesla. And I'm the most excited about it now that I have, because up until now, you could have had stories. You could have thought, well, it might die. This technology might not work. That there's so much FUD, there's so much pushback. I mean, you step on a lot of toes of incumbents, you're going to get a lot of pushback, right? And they're all the big advertisers. So all you see is gloom and doom in the media constantly. So sure, like that can all be down, but then you peel back the covers and you look at what's actually going on inside the company, and like, it's rocking, like it's rock solid. That balance sheet with this cash flow, they're not going anywhere. They won, right? It's great.
Yeah, and they're not stopping. There's all these other things that they're rolling out. Like, for instance, with when they did the semi delivery a couple weeks ago, the first iteration of the semi that they did, 5 years ago now, it had 4 motors. Now they've cut back that down to 3 motors because they've increased the power of those motors so much. And then on top of that, they put that clutch dual powertrain into the semi. Just all these little things that they're doing around the edges. It's people tend to focus on 1 or 2 things, and I think people who get caught up in that, maybe it's because there's just so much to track that you can't possibly track it all. But as a side note, I'm interested to see if the powertrain that goes into the semi also goes into the Cybertruck. So like if you're towing a heavy load or something like that, you disengage a couple of the motors and you get longer range. So it might have more range than people expected. But yeah, I don't know if that'll go ahead. What's that?
I'm not seeing that. I mean, the trick is kind of interesting, but it's not nearly as important in a vehicle like a Cybertruck as it is in the semi. That would be my prediction, is you wouldn't see a straight translation of that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think one of the main reasons why they put the triple motors into the semi was actually to recapture energy rather than for acceleration. So there might be some benefit for the Cybertruck, but I guess where I'm driving with that is I'm just flat out excited about the Cybertruck and the street cred that the relationship between the semi and Cybertruck is going to give to the Cybertruck, because it's probably going to have like the same triple motor powertrain. But anyhow, I'm getting too techie here. I'm getting overstimulated about tech. So
Jordan and James getting techie.
the techies took over. Let's go back to the mission, though. Anybody else? Ellie and Jeff, do you guys have comments about what you think 2 to 3 years from now? What's the world's going to look like?
A lot more Cybertrucks on the road, period. a lot more of them and semis, and hopefully a cheaper Tesla for people like me.
A robotaxi?
Well, robotaxi, but also just like a cheaper model, right? Isn't that something we're also hoping to learn more about?
Would people be excited about a cheaper model? So the one of the things about the Cybertruck is the reason it looks the way that it does is it's an attempt to make a really durable but less expensive to manufacture vehicle. So if the inexpensive vehicle ended up being like a little mini Cybertruck sort of sedan version, do people think that would be a win, or would it just be like too weird and you don't think it would succeed?
I think it would be. I mean, I think we need to understand how. I mean, I think Cybertruck's going to be polarizing, but I think it's going to do well. I mean, you should look at the pent up demand. Even if half of those or 40% of those go, there's years of demand on that one product line. So it'd be hard to imagine that it couldn't translate into a different form factor and potentially do well. But I think it's probably prudent to see how the truck does. But I think it's going to do well. I think in 3 to 5 years, the story about Tesla is just going to be scale. It's going to be about, because I remember 10 years ago when I'd be in the Bay Area, like, oh, I saw a Tesla drive by. It's pretty interesting. And it was very rare. And now when you go, it's a lot of the cars you see, but still I'm in the Midwest. And there's a lot of Teslas, but it's still not most of the cars you see, or EVs are not most of the cars. So I think when I think 3 to 5 years about, I think a couple of things. I think scale and hardware. I think scale and like real world AI and the ability to actually capitalize and use that in our daily lives. I'm using, FSD in my cars. I'm using ChatGPT now to do analysis on things. What am I going to be doing 3 to 5 years from now? So I'm excited about the ability to scale both in hardware and, software and real world AI.
Mind if I add a snippet on that? Yeah, I think totally agree with Jeff. Really, I think the next 3 to 5 years is going to be all about scale, with Mexico potentially coming online and Korea, and then also too the continual ramp of Austin factory, Shanghai, and even Berlin. There's just going to be a lot that's going to be happening, and then you still have Buffalo and Sparks, Nevada, all those factories just pumping batteries, cars out. And then also too, I'm really excited to see where FSD is going to be. And then along with the cheaper car, right? Which is, I think what Franz was potentially alluding to is like what he's most excited about is potentially this, new product. It could be the cheaper car, maybe it's something else, but if they pump that out, it'll be really interesting to see like, where are they going to do that out of, which factory, if not multiple factories. But that's what I think is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years as we look back. It's all going to be about scalability along with, adding some new products along the way with FSD ramping.
My thoughts are that this is the most consequential company in the world. We are watching history in the making. There's a reason why we are all here as a community, and the community is very large. We actually see a company that's accomplishing what they have sought out to do, which is the biggest problems on Earth, right? There is now clearly accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. Every single car manufacturer is now creating an electric vehicle. There has been significant movements in an energy. There is now going to be the bot coming out, and in 3 to 5 years, that's going to start to show its capability and start giving it a glimpse. And what you guys also said earlier is what gets me so excited was that 3 years ago, no one was talking bots. No one's talking about, I'm blanking on my mind right now, but there's like every single year, there's something brand new that is being introduced. And so 2 to 3 years from now, there's going to be, some sort of VTOL airplane. There's going to be some sort of maybe world hunger. Who knows what Elon himself is going to do? He's very likely going to start a net new company, which he does every 3 years. And each of these companies seem to be progressing and succeeding. And so, this is the most important company in the world, and we are part of it. So I think it's, I'm just very, very optimistic what's going to happen. But any kind of like closing thoughts from everybody?
Well, I just want to echo what others have just said about, the next 3 to 5 years. I personally bought this car because of the technology, not because of the environment. So I'm very excited to see what other applications Tesla will, or other new products that Tesla will come out with these technologies that they're developing. It's not just the car, but the software, the AI, the deep learning, the robots, the FSD technology. I'm thinking they can branch out into other things. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Nobody going to do any predictions? I can't get James to predict.
Predict.
Well, okay, have to answer me in 10 seconds or less, okay? When is Robotaxi going to be live?
24, 25.
When is a bot going to be sold to a consumer?
27.
When are you going to buy Farzad's next t-shirt? Because I noticed you're not wearing his anymore.
I still have to give him feedback on the other one. It's a great t-shirt, by the way, Farzad. It's really, no, I paid for that, by the way. I bought that shirt.
I tried to send it to him for free, and he ended up
Everybody
buying
should
it
buy
anyway.
one. It's very cool.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Everybody, wonderful. Thank you so much for
Great to
supporting
see
the
you all.
Tesla community. We all needed this today.
Thank you, Herbert.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Thank you, Herbert, for
Thank
bringing
you.
us
Bye.
here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.